Kia ora everyone, I'm excited to have here with me today Kimberley Symon, BDO Advisory Partner, to talk with me about the April 2023 findings of the BDO Wellbeing and Business Performance Index, Te Rangahau o ngā hauora pai, a biannual study exploring both business performance and wellbeing and the relationship between the two among New Zealand business leaders. Kia ora, Kim, it's so great to have you with us again. It's obviously been a big year. There's been a lot that's been happening.
Yep.
We're going to unpack some of your tips and advice shortly, but give us a quick rundown of exactly what's come out of the latest index. I'm sure there's a lot of new information there to unpack.
Yeah, business leaders are really starting to feel the pinch of the economy and the fallout from COVID, essentially. So our survey adopts the World Health Organization's globally recognised measure for wellbeing, and the WHO5 index in our April report is sitting at 62 out of 100. So while it is stable from 6 months ago when we spoke last, digging deeper, the reasons for negative wellbeing have now changed. So coming to the top is business financial measures, followed closely by those economic factors. So that's your inflation and your interest rates and things like that I think we'll talk about shortly. Cost of living, of course, is pretty high. New to the table though is ESG. And I'm seeing a lot of that out in the market. People now are really worried about not only the climate change impacts, but also the associated compliance that will come along with that. COVID is actually no longer in the top 5.
So people have finally adapted to that upheaval, which is a big relief.
It's the new normal.
Yeah, but a whole bunch of new pressures coming through.
Yeah.
I know that it's stable from last time, but it's down from 12 months ago. Was this to be expected? I mean, we all kind of heard murmurings about the economic effect and flow on from COVID-19.
Yeah. I think when you think right back to 2020 when COVID first came out, we all expected this big economic shock and it didn't happen. The economy just kept operating. We had the government packages, the government relief. That of course is now all finished. But with inflation where it is, where house prices are, all of those associated indicators have just created this whirlwind, and it's got a double impact on businesses, I think, in that they're struggling at a sales end. People don't have the money out there to spend anymore, so their sales are coming down, but their costs are forever increasing.
So of course you've covered a lot about wellbeing and the flow and effects for business leaders there, but that's also interlinked into business performance as well. How is that measuring up?
Yeah, so importantly, our survey doesn't just focus on wellbeing, it focuses on the relationship between wellbeing and business performance. And in this survey, again, we've seen that business financial performance is down. Our April results show that business financial performance is one of the key causes to negative wellbeing for businesses, with only 48% of businesses feeling positive about their business financial performance, which is down 11% from our last measure.
Which is a pretty concerning number when you break it down to that. It's quite low, isn't it?
That's half of businesses worried about their business financial performance over the next 6 months.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you break down for me what kind of economic pressures that they're most worried about, and what is top of mind for these business leaders?
So costs across the board have gone up. We know that inflation's sitting at, I think, 7.2 in the most recent information. However, we've also got the OCR. So we've got the Reserve Bank trying to control that inflation, but in doing so, all of the interest costs for our business leaders are going up. Particularly when you think of they've been low for so long, business leaders have gone and used those low rates to grow their businesses, but a lot of them are now facing large loans or trade finance and those kinds of things where the interest rates are just so much higher than where they were 12 months ago.
Down on obviously the last 12 months, but stable from the last one. In terms of, I guess, how positive that is. I mean, stability is good, but you'd obviously like it to be higher.
Higher stability would be better, yeah. I think low, as I said last time, it was low for different reasons. It was low because of COVID and the unknown, and I think that unknown is still there, but it is those economic pressures that are really driving the negative wellbeing.
Specifically, in terms of any clients that you've dealt with, what are you sort of hearing anecdotally? What's the mood like? What are some of the, I guess, emotional pressures that people are facing?
Well, to be fair, I receive calls from my clients just saying, Kim, what should I do here? I'm in this situation, my sales are down, my costs are up. I'm not going to be able to make these payments in 12 months' time if I don't do something. So what action should I take? So there's a lot of conversations around looking at those key financial metrics and seeing what levers we can pull to make a difference in their business.
How often are you receiving calls like that at the moment?
Oh, probably daily, sometimes, depending on what the economic pressures are. So retail in particular are really feeling it. The supply chain piece has really come into play, with a lot of people have gone and bought a lot of stock with how bad supply chain was, and now they've got less cash because they've got a large amount of stock on hand and they simply can't sell it because the market isn't there.
So a lot of pressure resting on these business leaders' shoulders. I know that they are obviously calling you for a reason. They're calling you for advice, for help, for support. And I know everyone watching will be wondering the same. Can you sort of outline for us a few tips on how people can properly deal with these pressures?
So one of the biggest things that I've found of late is planning, and that's around strategy. So actually sitting down and saying to yourself, what is my vision for the future of my business? Why am I in business? How am I going to achieve my vision? How am I going to get there? What kind of strategic objectives should I be following? And what actions do I need to be taking? And actually going through and having a strategic plan, or dusting it off if you've already done one and haven't looked at it, and kind of understanding where you're going can help, from a wellbeing perspective, keep you on track, because it just gives you that sense of purpose.
So being proactive, how important is that? Because when you're in a time of uncertainty, the only thing you can be certain about is how you respond.
Yes. I think the biggest thing here, as I said, it's planning. And a lot of business leaders, when they're reaching that point where they're daily worrying about their cash flow or their resources, how do I find staff or how do I get that stock, they don't focus on their business, they're in their business. So that's stepping back and actually being proactive in doing so is key to getting ahead. But it's hard, and in these uncertain times, you get down with the pressure.
No, absolutely. I can see there are lots more practical tips shared in the report as well. Importantly, what's ahead for business leaders, looking at both expectations of wellbeing and business performance too.
So interestingly, the forward outlook is actually looking better for business leaders. They're looking 6 months ahead and seeing that the situation will be better. Key causes for negative wellbeing in the future, still those business financial measures, but we've got political factors coming into play, because of course we have an election later this year, and business leaders are concerned about the impact that will have. The other key thing, as I mentioned before, is around ESG. So there's a lot of business leaders concerned not only about, because of course ESG is environmental, social and governance, but when we look at sustainability and climate change, it's not only that business leaders are worried about, it's actually that compliance that's going to come through over the next 12 to 18 months. And we're already seeing that from banks, with banks expecting ESG strategy in place, and seeing that businesses are measuring their carbon output and what are they doing in that social community space. So that, I think, is going to come to the fore over the next 6 months.
Which is great that they're responding to that, but it does add another layer of pressure to these business leaders.
Yeah.
You've mentioned that the outlook is looking positive, or is expected to look a bit more positive. Is there an indication of when that turning point might be? I mean, I know it's hard to have a crystal ball.
Yeah, we just don't know at the moment, that times are so uncertain, but it is positive that business leaders are looking 6 months ahead and saying times will be better, rather than looking 6 months ahead and saying, no, it's getting worse.
It is really reassuring to have that mindset. With that future outlook in mind, are there any further key tips for business leaders in preparing for the road ahead? And what are you seeing from successful ones and who are doing this?
So key around financials is to review your financials, understand them, understand those key metrics and what levers you can pull. So making sure, because times are uncertain, forecasting out those scenarios around what your business will look like if this happens, or what your business will look like if that happens. And then understanding, okay, if that was to happen, what am I going to do?
And I also wanted to touch really briefly around Cyclone Gabrielle as well. It's no secret that there have been some regions seriously affected, and also with the floods in Auckland as well. They've had a significant impact on businesses, commercial properties. Do you have any advice for those affected businesses, dealing with significant events, these unexpected, out of the blue circumstances?
Yeah. So look, I'm a Cantabrian, so I'm no stranger to these massive events that are life-changing and certainly business-changing as well. So the key really that we found in the wake of the Canterbury earthquakes and that business leaders will be feeling now in the wake of the cyclone will be around that risk management and actually being very proactive in that, not waiting until these events happen to figure out what you're going to do, but to have a comprehensive risk management plan, understand what risks are out there for your business, understand how big or how catastrophic they could be, and put plans in place that you will action in those events.
And what about as well knowing when to ask for help? Because I know it can be the Kiwi way. We sort of have a habit of going, there's someone so much worse off than me. And I always feel like you should never diminish your adversity because there are other people who are going through something worse. Your problems are always valid. What's your advice to businesses who might be going, well, I don't have power and my front door got destroyed, but it's okay because there are others who have lost their entire premises.
So reach out, speak to your accountant. They may be able to jump in and help you with some of those tax relief packages and things like that the government are offering.
Speaking of the places to go to for support, where can people get more information and advice?
So for more support, you can go to our website where there is more information on what you can do in terms of your wellbeing, as well as diving into some of those key sectors. I think different in this report from the last is that some of our sectors are doing well and some are not. So particularly retail, construction not doing so well. But if we look to tourism, they've got a really positive outlook in the wake of COVID leaving, as I talked about earlier. The other fantastic thing that we've brought out this time around, given the pressures that businesses are facing, is a business resilience guide with some key tips for businesses to remain resilient through these times.
Some fantastic advice, some fantastic resources. It's been wonderful chatting to you. Hopefully next time we catch up, that wellbeing score will be through the roof with that positive outlook. Thank you so much for your time.
Awesome, thanks.